Hello, and welcome to today's video on in basic cooking and making a meal. So there's been a series of videos in the cooking and meal preparation videos for the Brain Injury Association of Maryland. So hopefully you've already reviewed kitchen safety and reading a recipe, and we're going to use and apply these skills today with starting with our first recipe of making a sandwich. And again, this is a really good one to start with if you're just getting comfortable in the kitchen or you want to practice your skills in using your knife or reading a recipe. This is a really great place to start. So we're going to focus on making a sandwich today and then working through the other videos in additional videos. So the first thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to play a video of the steps for making a sandwich. And I'm going to have you review this video and watch the steps for doing it before going through the process and steps yourself so that you can see what it will look like.
All right, so in this video, we are going to be making a basic club sandwich, but I'm going to show you a couple things you can do to make it maybe a little fancier, add a few extra tasty bites to it here. So first, we're going to make sure that we have all of our ingredients. So I have my bread, I have my tomato, which I've washed off already, I have ham, I have cheese, I have mustard, and I have mayonnaise, and a little salt and pepper, which I'm going to be adding as well. The nice thing about a club sandwich is that you can sort of add whatever you like and take out whatever you don't. Maybe you want to have ham and turkey on your sandwich, or you want to do bologna on your sandwich, different types of cheese. You could add some onion to it, do a whole bunch of different things to make the sandwich really taste good to you. So keep it basic today with just some hams and cheese and tomato and bread here. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is slice the tomato. And I'm going to make sure I have everything I need. So I have my cutting board, and I need to grab a couple of knives here. So I'm going to slice the tomato first while I have a lot of space on the cutting board. A tomato can be tricky to cut because it's round, and it's also a little bit hard to cut through. So this is something that's easier to do if you have a nice sharp knife, like we've talked about. That's actually safer to use a sharp knife than a dull one. Some people have a serrated knife, so there's sort of bumpy edges along it. I can show you here. This is a serrated knife, so a steak knife. You could use that to cut your tomato. I'm going to use a chef's knife here today. The other thing to remember with the tomato, right, is that it's round. And it's got this kind of core in the middle of it, which can make it hard to chop in half to get a flat edge. And if I want to slice for a sandwich, I like big rounds. So what I'm just going to make sure to do is that I'm holding it really securely with my left hand. I cut right-handed with my knife. So this left hand is going to be curled just like this, holding the tomato steady on the cutting board. So it's not really going to move around when I push the knife into it. And I'm going to cut off the very edge of it here. I don't want that piece on the sandwich here. And now I'm going to cut just a couple of slices. And you can see that this tomato is not rolling or moving at all because I'm holding it hard enough with my fingers here. And I'm making sure the knife isn't too close to my fingers. And now I've got a couple of really good slices for my sandwich. Next, I'm going to grab 2 slices of bread. And I'm going to shake up the mustard a little bit. And I'm going to add the mustard. And then I'm going to add some mayonnaise. And again, if you didn't like either of these ingredients, you wouldn't need to add any of them on there. If you just want mustard, you just want mayonnaise. So I'm going to do a little scoop of mayonnaise here and put it on this slice. And I'm just going to mix these together here. Get this piece of bread nice and covered. And I've got a little extra on my knife, so I'm actually going to just do it on both sides. I like mayonnaise and mustard, so I don't mind. Okay. And then I'm going to add a few slices of ham here onto my bread. And you can add as many or as few slices as you'd like. Maybe you want like a really big, thick sandwich like you might get from the deli. You can add more slices. I've added, I think, about 3 here. And then I'm going to add some cheese. I'm just going to use 1 slice of cheese. I really like cheese. Sometimes I add 2. I'm going to throw my slices of tomato on top here. And I think this one's a little bit too big, so I'm going to cut it in half. On there. And then I'm going to sprinkle just a little salt and pepper on the tomato pieces here. You can skip this step if that doesn't sound good to you on your sandwich. Take on a little salt, little pepper. Here we have it. Just a sandwich. Now it could be a little bit big and bulky. The last thing you could do is you could also decide to cut the sandwich in half. Makes it a little easier to eat. So you'll notice I'm stabilizing it with my left hand here, and I'm pushing the knife down all the way through to the cutting board. And now here we've got a delicious club sandwich to eat. So play with this recipe a little bit, add things to it, onions, lettuce, pickles, whatever sounds good, and use different types of bread to vary it up. But a sandwich is a nice filling meal, easy and quick to do for lunch, for dinner. You know, there's a lot on it that adding some vegetables to it can make it a really well-rounded meal. Enjoy.
All right, so that was just a video reviewing the steps for making a sandwich. Now I'm going to walk you through the steps for you to make the sandwich on your own using that goal plan do review sheet that we've been using in the other videos here. So I would welcome that if you are ready and have the supplies to actually use this video to help you go through and go along the steps of making a sandwich for good practice here. If you don't have the supplies ready, you can certainly still view this video as a way to review the steps and get familiar and comfortable with the steps and come back to it later, again, if you'd like, while you're making the sandwich. So this sheet will probably look familiar to you if you have viewed any of our other videos. It's our goal plan do review sheet. This is the simple version. This is the more detailed version. And what we're going to use in this one is the more detailed version. So if you don't have one of these sheets out yet, I would welcome you to grab one of those as well before we move through the next steps. Okay, so first, we're going to walk through the steps here. So the first thing we're going to do is write down the goal. So what is the goal of doing this activity today? So, you know, your goal might be to make yourself a meal, to learn how to work in the kitchen safely, to use a recipe to make a sandwich. So take a moment and write this down on your goal plan do review sheet. It looks like our little timer didn't pop up in this video as it has in other videos, so I apologize for that, but I will give you some cues as to when to pause. The next thing you're going to do is our plan, right? So you just watched the video on how to make a sandwich. So I would encourage you to take a moment here before continuing on to pause the video and write down the steps for making a sandwich out to see if you can remember what the steps are from the video itself. And then if you've paused the video and taken a moment to write the steps out, you can also double check this with the recipe to see if you remembered all of the steps like they are written in the recipe that goes along with this video. And so what I'm outlining here are the steps that we're going to follow today to make the sandwich, but it's not the steps of the video. But we are going to, so if you're going to make a sandwich, you would need to get out the recipe for making a sandwich, look at your time or figure out how much time was needed to make the recipe, look at your ingredients list, check to see if you have all of the ingredients. That was funny. Identify the equipment needed, read each step of the recipe, make the notes as you read, gather your ingredients and equipment needed, and follow the steps of the recipe. And those steps of the recipe are the ones that you just wrote down based on the video here. So these are what we're going to do. And if these are great steps to follow if you're going to make any recipe. So you want to make sure that you have all of your ingredients, you have enough time to make it, and you have everything you need to be able to make it. So what do we need to be able to make a sandwich? We're going to definitely need our recipe, our cooking equipment, and our ingredients. So we're going to go through that here to see what we need. Sorry, and my stuff is acting funny today. So the first thing we're going to do is identify how well do you think we're going to do on this task from 1 to 10. Maybe this seems pretty easy to you. You've made sandwiches before. You're familiar with the recipe. You might rate yourself higher. If this is brand new to you and you're learning, you might rate yourself a little lower, and that's okay, right? Because we're learning and figuring this out. So pause here and fill out that piece of your sheet. So next, we're going to go through the steps of making a sandwich here using our strategies from reading a recipe. So the first thing we want to figure out is, do we have enough time to make the recipe? So on this recipe, and this recipe handout's available along with the video, it says we need 10 minutes to prep. We're not cooking anything, so our total time is 10 minutes. So just making sure you've got 10 minutes to see this recipe all the way through. This is a faster recipe, which is nice. Then we want to read through the ingredients and the equipment to make sure we have everything we need. So that ingredients are listed up here. We need 2 slices of bread, 4 to 6 slices of deli meat, whatever your choice is, 1 to 2 slices of cheese, and the food that you might want to put on top: tomato, lettuce, onion, pickles, all kinds of things. Green pepper, sometimes people like to put on. Mayonnaise and mustard, again, if you enjoy those things, and salt and pepper also, if you'd like those on your sandwich. We don't need a lot of equipment for this one. We basically just need a butter knife, a knife for slicing if you're going to slice up tomato or onion, and then a plate or a cutting board to prepare it on. So if you're going along through this recipe together, pause the video here and go ahead and get out and check to see if you have all of the ingredients and the equipment and get those items ready. Next, after you've checked for your ingredients and equipment, we're going to read through the steps of the recipe. You can make any notes as needed and summarize the steps out loud. So the instructions for this one are highlighted to the right, pretty simple. We went through them in the video. And so just if you were going to summarize them, right, so not read them exactly, but thinking about what it is that you're going to need to do, you're going to slice up your vegetables that you're going on the sandwich. You're going to lay out your bread. You're going to spread your mayonnaise and mustard on the bread, and then you're going to add on the meat, the cheese, and the vegetables, and finishing it with a top slice of bread. So pretty simple, quick summary. So take a moment here to pause for yourself, read through the steps of the recipe either on the screen or on your handout here, and take a moment, make notes if you need to, and then summarize the steps to yourself, and making sure that you know what it is that you need to do to make the sandwich. Okay, and now if you haven't already, we talked through making sure that you check to make sure you have all of your ingredients and your equipment. If you haven't gotten them out yet, go ahead and gather them. And I would suggest in this step, if you have them out already, get your stuff organized in the way that's going to be easy for you to use and find what you need while you're making this recipe. So pause here and you can go ahead and get your stuff out and organize your space. And then next, I will have you pause the video here and follow the instructions for making the recipe. Again, you can use the instructions on the screen, or if it's easier to read the steps on the paper recipe, if you have that printed out, go ahead and do that. So we're going to pause here and have you make your sandwich. And come back to this video when you're finished. Okay, so now that you've come back to the video after you have made your sandwich, go ahead and use that goal, plan, do review sheet to reflect on how you did. So while you were working, were there any problems that you found, anything that you realized you needed to work on or that you forgot to do, and what solutions did you find? So go ahead and take a moment, pause the video, and write those down on your sheet. And then last, into the review section, rate yourself again from 1 to 10, how well you did on making the sandwich. Was it easy? Was it difficult? Did you make it without any problems? Whatever it was for you, go ahead and rate that. And then write any notes to yourself about what worked well and what didn't work. Maybe it was really helpful to have everything organized before you got started. maybe something didn't work, like you picked the wrong knife, whatever it was, make notes for yourself because that's how we learn. And you can think about what will you try differently next time to be successful. That's the end of the making a sandwich video, and I really hope that you join us for the additional recipes that are coming up to learn and practice your cooking skills.